Well, hello there, everyone. My name is Amy. This is a pen woman, and welcome to Crafty Reads, a series where I craft something and we talk about the last 5 books that I've read. In this episode, I'm working on mushroom bags again. I promise you, I will have more interesting things to work on, like in the next couple of episodes. But I have been very in the zone working on one project of my mom's that is currently stalled now because I need to do some blocking and stuff. And I have other projects that I want to get going for my shop, but I haven't been able to do that because I've started a new job working retail. So once everything smooths out and I start getting used to like the rhythm of things, then we'll get back to doing something a little bit more jazzy. But for now, we're extending these 2 squares so that they fit, because of the front and the back, so that they fit a cell phone. And let's chat about some books. The first book I read was the last book from my thriller series that came out a couple of weeks ago. If you want to check that out, go and look. I decided to read from authors that I have not enjoyed in the past and seeing if they have like grown on me over time. Except the Julia Bartz one was kind of sneaky because this was her debut, so I hadn't read from her before, but all the people that recommended the other books that I read in that vlog really liked The Writing Retreat. Oh, it's The Writing Retreat by Julia Bartz. Sorry, my bad. I've had a headache for 2 days, so my brain is mush. So I decided to also, at the same time as reading 2 authors that I disliked in the past, I would also read The Writing Retreat just to give it a go and see what the hype was all about. So we're following our main character Alex, who is a writer, and she's recently fallen out with her best friend Ren, and she's been in a writer's block. But she has always wanted to go to this writing retreat of this writer called Rosa, who she's idolized since she was a child, and she's wanted to go to this writing retreat that she holds that's very, very exclusive. And she and Ren managed to get into this writing retreat. And they go there. It's in this like spooky kind of manor in the middle of nowhere, and it's very snowy weather. It's very isolated. There's no cell service. And they're given like a certain amount of words that they need to be done every day, and then they'll have like one-on-one sessions. They'll be like have group discussions, and then they have dinner and like meals and everything together every day, and like sort of have some writers camaraderie. There are a few things that sort of show you that something sinister is sort of going to be happening, because it sort of plods along very simply for the first part of it. It like takes a little while. It like lulls you into a false sense of security before the drama happens. So the one night Rosa gets them to all do LSD, and there is one of the other writers called Poppy who comes to Alex, and she leads her down into the basement, and she keeps telling her she's not who she seems. She's not who she seems. She doesn't say who is not who she seems. But because Alex is tripping, like everything's not very clear, and then when they wake up the next day, Poppy is gone, and they presume that she's gone out into the snow, and they think that she's died because she's now been exposed to the snowy weather for days, but they can't get hold of the outside world by the cell phones. They have to radio the police station, so they're sort of like stuck in this limbo, being expected to write while Poppy is missing. And then from there, things slowly start to devolve, and very sinister stuff starts to happen, and we realize that people are not who they seem, and things start to get crazy, and in a way that I can't actually tell you, otherwise it would be a huge spoiler. But if you like thrillers that get like a little bit crazy ridiculous in the end, this really will work for you. It's hit or miss with me when it comes to thrillers, but I found this level of like ridiculous and over the top to be very entertaining, and very tension filled, had me like on the edge of my seat wanting to know what was going to happen. And I think it, like the ending was a little rushed, but I still found it very entertaining. So I recommend this one. And in my vlog, there are spoilers in there. If you don't want to, if you're not keen on reading this, but you want to know the drama, then yeah, there are spoilers in that vlog. But out of all of the books, like, I'm very surprised from the people who recommended the writing retreat. It's not that it doesn't seem to be like the type of people who share the same thriller recommendations as me, like thriller taste. But this one worked. Then I read The Evil Eye by Etaf Rum, and this is also for a vlog. It was for a vlog that came out recently of me, last week actually, of me reading from Palestinian authors, because I am a big supporter of a free Palestine. So I've been looking for different books that I can read from Palestinian authors, to uplift their voices and to just like educate myself. And this was the type of book that is right up my alley. I love a character-driven, not a crazy plot, like character study of a book. And that's exactly what this is. We're following a main character, Yara, who is she works at a university, but she's also got a husband and 2 daughters. She is born from Palestinian parents and she grew up in Brooklyn. But she's just really, oh no, come back. You can tell she's really struggling with like not feeling very happy in her life. And like every time she tries to approach one of her loved ones about it, everyone's like, I don't understand like what your issue is. You have so much more freedom than so many other women in your position because your husband lets you have a job, and you've got 2 beautiful daughters, you're a mother, like what else could you want? Like that's the whole, basically without saying it, they say that's the whole point of a woman, is the fact that she looks after and cooks for her family, and she has like beautiful children. But so sort of the tension that she's been feeling in her life comes to a head at work, where one of her colleagues makes a kind of racist remark and she responds quite angrily to her, and she ends up getting sent to therapy. And even though this therapist is not like the best fit for her, he starts to get her to journal. And through journaling, she learns so much about herself. We get some excerpts of her journal where she's speaking about going back to Palestine to visit her teta, her grandmother, and how different her mother was when they were in Palestine, and how much a part of that place that she felt, because she feels very in between 2 cultures. Having been from a Palestinian family but born in Brooklyn, she feels very split between those identities, and she also feels very guilty for wanting to put herself first in a lot of ways. But through this journaling, she really goes through the different traumas that she's gone through in her life, and the inherited traumas that she's inherited from her family and from like the culture of like what her people have gone through. And she slowly learns about herself and learns to put herself first and to make sure that her happiness is a priority. And like I said, it's a very quiet, very character-driven novel. There's no crazy intense plot. There's some really lovely friendships in here, some very tenuous family relationships, and it's just a look at motherhood through a very unique lens. And I think it was very, very beautifully done. And Etaf Rum's writing is gorgeous. I highly recommend like picking up like this or her other book, A Woman Is No Man. Like, so good. Then for that same vlog, I picked up You Exist Too Much by Zaina Arafat. This is another quite insular, like not crazy plot driven novel that is following another Palestinian American character, but she is in her 20s. She's not named throughout the book, and she is also dealing with a lot of the traumas from her past and how they have wound themselves into the being that she is today, and like created the issues that she's suffering with now, and how those traumas that she hasn't dealt with are really shaping her existence. She, at the beginning of the book, is in a relationship with a woman, and this woman seems to be like, you know, just loves her for her, like just wants to be with her. And she doesn't seem to, you get the impression that she doesn't seem to think she deserves that kind of love, which makes her seek out love in other sources. And all of these sources are from like people that she really shouldn't be finding romantic solace in. So like lecturers, or like teachers of hers, or like people who are senior to her. Like she goes at one stage, after the falling apart of this relationship, she goes to a clinic for love addiction, and she fixates on one of the counselors there. So she's always looking for people who aren't obtainable. And throughout the novel, we get some looks back into her past, and a lot to do with like her relationship with her and her mother, and her visits to the Middle East, whether that's to her teta in the West Bank, or whether she's in Jordan or in Egypt. And yet again, the same as the evil eye, feeling very in between these two existences. And through looking at this love addiction and looking at these different relationships that she's had through her life, you realize that a lot of what she's seeking is like an unconditional love from her mother. And that is why she's seeking out relationships that are unhealthy, and relationships that are bad for her, from people who should not be obtainable in a romantic setting. She's just desperately looking for the approval of her mother. And yeah, it's not got an intense plot. It's got some really great characters that she like flows through. Like, we don't have a lot of characters that stick around for like the whole book, but she is influenced by all of the characters that we get introduced to, and she learns a little bit more about herself. And it's just a really hard novel to like, it's about this, this, and this. It's just not about that. There's a lot of introspective, personal work that is going on in this character. And it's beautifully done. It's this author's debut. So Zaina Arafat is someone that I am going to be going back to, because her writing is wonderful and so introspective and so nuanced. Like, that's the thing. It's a very nuanced book, and I think she executed it perfectly. And then, because of this job that I've got in retail, I am going to be listening to a lot more audiobooks because of driving to and from work. So expect to see a lot more audiobooks in relation, like in comparison to physical books in the coming months. But the next one I picked up was Meeting Millie by Clare Ashton. This is a sapphic romance, something that's just fun and easy. I had just come off listening to all three of those thrillers like back to back, and I was like, nah, I need something romantic, I need something fun, and I need some lesbians to be kissing. So we're following two characters. They are college roommates, Charlotte and Millie. And they meet on the first day when they move into halls, and they immediately spark up this great friendship. Then we jump forward in the story to after they've graduated, and we get the impression that these two have not spoken since their college days. And they both end up back in Oxford, because they went to Oxford for university. And it just so happens that they both end up back in Oxford for new jobs. And they run into each other, and they rekindle their friendship, and we start to figure out why their friendship sort of died in the first place, and what happened and whose fault it was, if there was anyone at fault. And we just start to see these two come together and develop this beautiful friends to lovers relationship. And Charlotte is a very beautiful out lesbian. She went into college very shy, and Millie is very outgoing and was so determined to get her friend out there and meeting girls and like expressing her sexuality and all of that kind of thing. So Millie is like this very bubbly, very supportive friend that Charlotte has really missed over the years. And Millie has gone through some really hard stuff since not speaking to Charlotte, and she really like needed that friendship support. But now that they've come together again, they've sort of started they've come back into each other's lives to become their support systems. And it's just a cute, fun little sapphic romance. Like, it's not the best romance I've read in my life, it's not the worst romance I've read in my life, it's just perfectly adorable and cute, and for me, the right amount of spice. I'm not a huge spice person. I want a couple of good sex scenes and that's it. I don't want the whole book to be banging, and that's exactly what I got with this. A lot more focus on the emotional relationship and a lot less on the sexual one. So if you just want a romance for spice, this is not one of them. But if you're looking for what I look for in a romance, then you're going to be pleased. And the last book that I read was quite a quick one. It was just like a 4-hour audiobook, and that's The Fell by Sarah Moss. I think I just saved this because I know that I like Sarah Moss's writing. She writes very atmospherically. She's got some like really beautiful nature writing that she tends to write, and I didn't realize this is a pandemic book. So if you're not looking, if those kind of books sort of trigger you, then I wouldn't recommend this one, but it's really well written and it's a very good depiction of the feeling of being in lockdown. So I do recommend it if you can stomach pandemic books. We're following a couple of main characters. Kate is a mom. She's recently had an exposure at work, so her and her son are quarantining for 2 weeks at home, and he's just sort of playing his computer games. His name is Matt. He's another perspective that we get. And she is losing her marbles. She just like can't handle being at home this whole time. She's feeling super trapped. All she wants to do is go on walks on the fells, which is what she loves to do. And she's just feeling very limited and suffocated. And the one day she just gets all of her like stuff together to go walking on the fells, and off she goes, and she breaks her quarantine. And she doesn't tell Matt that she's going, so he's left at home like really panicking about where his mom's gone, if she's okay, and whether they're going to get a massive fine from the police for breaking quarantine. And then we're following their next door neighbor, who's an older woman who's been suffering. She's been going for cancer treatments, so she's got to be very, very careful and very shielded from people because she's got a compromised immune system. And she's seen what's happened next door. The son comes to ask her for help, and they stay far apart, and she ends up calling the police to get people to go look for her. And then we get another perspective of one of the rescue men who has gone to search for Kate on the moor. And that's the basic like premise of it, but at the same time, a lot of this book is the internal thoughts of these characters, and how they feel about the world, and how they feel about what the future is going to bring, and whether they're hopeless about it, whether they think they'll ever get back to normal, and the suffocation that they feel being locked in one place for so long, and hearing all the horror stories that are going on outside. And it's very accurate, I think, to how a lot of us felt during lockdown, and it's just all like has the added tension of Kate being looked for by these rescuers because something has happened to her while she's on the fell. So yeah, I enjoyed it. It's very melancholy, so I wouldn't recommend it if you are not looking to be bummed out. If you don't like more sad and reflective style books, like that's definitely on the story graph. If it was if this had tags, it would be sad and reflective, and I think it does. But because Kate Moss's writing is so good, I think she really executes it very, very well. And that is all I have for you today. I hope you enjoyed this Crafty Reads. If you want to see my crochet creations, you can click the links down below. I am this close to finishing setting up my Shopify. And then you can start ordering from me on there, because I know that market season is getting a little bit more like toned down now because of the winter, and trying to get Capetonians out in the winter, oh my god. I do ship internationally though, if you're interested in any of my crochet creations. Down in the description box is also my Instagram and my TikTok if you want more from me, along with my Kofi link, which is a one-time tip jar if you ever want to support my channel. But other than that, like, comment, subscribe, all of that fun stuff, and I'll check you next time.